Please be seated. The court is now in session. We now hear the testimony of a witness to TCW 809. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Witness, my name is Pechim. President, thank you, Mr. Pechim. Do you remember your date of birth? Answer. I was born on the 29th of September 1941. Question. Where were you born? Answer. It was at Trapang Prey Village, Trapang Thom Commune. Question. Where is your current address? Answer. I live at village commune, Trapang Trad district, Udor Minchai province. Question. What are the names of your father and mother? Answer. They died a long time ago. The interpreter cannot hear the father's name and the mother's name is unknown. Question. What is your wife's name and how many children do you have together? Answer. Pinh Leng is my wife's name and we have 5 children, one of whom died in the battlefield. Amongst them, there is 1 daughter. President, thank you. The greffier made an oral report this morning that to your best knowledge, none of your father, mother, ascendants, children or descendants, brothers, sisters, in-laws or wife is admitted as a civil party in this case. Is this information correct? Answer. Yes, that is correct. Question. Have you taken an oath before your appearance in this chamber? Answer. Yes, I have. President, thank you. The chamber would like to inform you of your rights and obligations as a witness before this chamber. Mr. Pechim, as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. That is your right against self-incrimination. This means that you may refuse to provide your response or make any comment that could lead you to being prosecuted. And as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your right as a witness. You must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly in relation to an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the party or the bench or the parties pose to you. And Mr. Pechim, Have you given any statement to the investigators or the office of the co-investigating judges? If so, how many times, where, and when? Answer. I have been interviewed several times at my home, and I was at this court once. Question. And before you appear before this chamber, have you reviewed or read the statements of your interviews with the investigator of the office of the co-investigating judges in order to refresh your memory? Answer. Yes, they were read out to me. President, thank you. And to your best recollection, the statements that were read out to you in full reflect or are consistent with the statements you provided to the investigators? Answer. Yes, I can make analysis of those statements based on my recollection. President, Mr. Pechem, you have been assisted by a duty counsel as requested by you through a visual, and that is Counsel Muang Sawan. Have you spoken to your duty counsel? Answer. I have discussed some issues with him, but not everything. President, thank you. Pursuant to Rule 91B of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber will give the floor to the co-prosecutors first to put the questions to this witness, and the combined time for the prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers is 1 full day plus 1 session. And the co-prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I want to start with just a few short questions about some of your background. In your last OCIJ interview, which is E319.1.18, at answers 78 and 80, you testified that you became a candidate member of the party on the 1st of October 1970, that you were a candidate member for 6 months, and then became a full member on the 1st of April 1971, and you described how there was a ceremony with the presence of an introducer. My question to you is, who was it that introduced you to the party when you became a member?
At that time, the event was held at the district. Kieu and Khom, a female, and another person, Chiet, and Nhieu, were there during the ceremony for the induction.
The person you referred to as the female Khom, was this the same person who was the daughter of Tamok?
Yes, that is correct. She's the wife of Mut.
គាត់ជាប្រធានបក
And she was chief of the district party.
In that same interview at answer 79, you gave the following testimony. Question: in your capacity as a full member, what authorities did you have? Answer: I cannot describe all. A party member implemented the line and the rules of the party. There were study sessions and meetings organized by the party because we were new members, so we had to try hard to study the party line and rules. End of quote. My question is, who was it that instructed you at these study sessions where you first learned the party lines and rules?
The instructor was Saum, the chief of sector.
ឥឡូវនេះគាត់ឆ្លាត
He passed away.
In what I believe was your very first interview with OCIJ, you also identified a person you called Teacher Un, who you described as one of the members of the front. Can you tell us who Teacher Un was and what positions he held during the Khmer Rouge regime?
He did not become a party member. He was only an assistant.
ហើយ
And he was an assistant in the district and never became a party member. And because of his background as a teacher, that is the petty bourgeoisie class, he would not be allowed to become a party member. And it was up to the chief of the district party or the provincial party who could decide whether the person would become a party member. And of course, everybody strived hard to engage in rice production. And of course, I would also distribute the rice production to areas which lacked or where the production was insufficient.
In this same OCIJ interview, E319.1.18, in the early part, answers 3 through answer 5, you identified a brother of yours named Pech Now. I hope I pronounced that right. Pech Now, who was a chairman of the Commune Front in the 1970 to 75 time period. I wanted to ask you, just to confirm, how many brothers did you have, and how many of them also held positions in the Khmer Rouge?
I had 6 brothers, all died. During the Khmer Rouge regime, 2 of them had positions, and so there were 3 altogether, including myself. although my other brothers did not want me to hold any position, as it would be better for me to be a teacher.
And am I correct that the two brothers of yours who also had positions were one Pech Now and also your brother Kit? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Which commune was your brother Pech Now a chairman of?
Allow me to confirm that he was chairman of Trapang Thum Commune Front in the 1970. Later on, he was removed and replaced by Dom. He contacted the commune for propaganda and for logistical purposes in order to gather forces, and he was inactive in this regard. For that reason, he was removed from the commune front, and then he was sent to work at a youth office at Tnaut Ju.
Still talking about this brother, did he live through the Khmer Rouge regime?
You talk about Pech Nu. When the Vietnamese entered the country, the people living in Taka province fled to mountain areas in Cambodia province, and he was one of those who fled to the forest in Cambodia province. And subsequently, he died as he stepped on a landmine. And my other brother Kut also died in that area at the time that the situation was intensified by the Vietnamese attack. So he fled into the forest, and he came out to sit under a tree, and we found him later on in the afternoon. In the afternoon, he already passed away sitting under the tree. So only I survived. As for my three sisters, they all died. So amongst the 9 of us, only myself survived, and I was the youngest child. I was a person who tell the truth. I never say anything untruthful, and I hate people who exploit other people. And that is the principle that I stand by. I love the people, and I love the poor. I also love the intellectuals and the monks, because I believe only the intellectuals could lead the country to prosperity. This is just a brief statement for you to understand about my character. I want you all to conclude this case as soon as possible, because every day when you wake up, you only hear conflicts amongst Cambodian people, and I don't want to hear that anymore. Cambodia used to be a powerful country, but it reduced itself to what it is now. Maybe we wanted to be too good, and we defeated ourselves in the process. And because of that nature, it leads to mistrust amongst Cambodians. President interrupts. Mr. Pecham, please listen to the question carefully and respond only what is asked of you and not to go beyond what is asked.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Your other brother, Kit, was he also the chief of that same commune, Trapiang Thom commune? Was Kit chief of that commune for a time period, and if so, when?
He was a commune chief.
ទាំងធំ
That is the commune chief of Trapang Thom. At that time, Trapang Thom commune was one, and now it has been divided into two communes. And later on, he came to work at the district. And that happened almost at the time of liberation, and it could be in late 1976, if I recall it correctly. Because before 1976, he was still at the Trapang Thom commune, and only by late 1976 or early 77, he went to the district level.
When was it that Trapiang Thom was split into two communes? Do you remember? Was it before liberation on 17 April 1975, or was it after?
It happened after.
មិនចាំច្បាស់
But I cannot recall the exact month or year. However, it was probably in late 1976.
I want to now spend a little time covering with you, helping us just to establish who were the various district leaders of Tram Kok district during the regime, and who held other key positions. And I'm going to start with the people who were district chief in Tram Kok during the regime period. You and others have identified the first secretary of Tram Kok district as Ye Khom, Tamak's daughter, who we mentioned earlier. You've also testified that you were on the district committee with Ye Khom, along with a person named Kiev. What I wanted to clarify with you is what was your position and what was Kiev's position on the district committee during the time that Ye Khom was district chief?
When Khom came to work in that area, I did not have any position within the committee. I was only asked to do things including collecting harvest for the army, and it lasted for 2 years. Then I became a member of the district committee in charge of economics, logistics, and transportation.
តែខុំប្រធាន
And Kom was the chairperson of the party.
នុធាន
And Gil was the deputy.
ហើយសមាជិក
As for the member in charge of the military affairs was New.
As the deputy secretary under Ye Kom, what were Takiv's responsibilities?
He was in charge of providing education to the people within the district, and he would work together with Kom. Wherever he was, Kom was there.
And as the member of the district committee, and I'm focusing now on the time period starting and after 17 April 1975. As the member of the district committee, did you regularly attend district-level meetings?
Yes.
How often did Ye Kom hold meetings with commune chiefs and the other district cadres?
The meetings were held regularly, and sometimes the meetings were convened as a matter of urgency. And they would take turn to convene the meetings within various communes. For example, one would go to convene meetings for two communes, while another member of the committee go to the other two communes. So Kom would convene meetings for two communes, while at the same time Gil convened meetings for other two communes. And at that time, I was rather strong physically, and I was busy in working at the district. And that house, they organized among themselves in convening meetings within the district. And as I said, the meetings were convened regularly or as a matter of urgency. And if Kom called for a meeting, everyone would attend the meetings. However, not every time all members of the districts would attend the meetings due to other matters. For instance, sometimes I missed the district meetings as I was busy at the dam, and sometimes he would go to the dam website to convene a meeting there. As for Niel, he spent times at the battlefield, and sometimes he returned for the meetings.
Can you tell us in 1975 and 1976, where was the district office located?
The location of the Tramco district varied, and usually it was held at a villager's house, for example, at Pan Mia, and later on during a dry season it was at Prey at Do, and then to Krabai Prey at the house of the elder female. And later on, it was moved to Trapang Thmo, which was adjacent to Krabai Prey area.
We've heard testimony from a number of people that there was a district office at some point in time in Ang Roka. Can you tell us whether at some point in time the district office was moved to Anroka, and if so, when was that?
Answer. The trade office was situated at Angroka. There was no economic exchange or trade. So it was subsequently relocated. That office was not well established, so after some months it was moved to Angaroka. Since those who engaged in trade were not there permanently.
Let me try this another way. First, the period that you were a member of the district committee, and in particular from 17 April 1975 up to the period where you became acting district chief in mid-1976. Where was it that you worked during that period? Did you have an office? And if so, where was it?
Answer. The house of a certain lady was taken and used as an office. I do not know whether that house still exists today. We had to sleep at a fixed location, and from time to time I returned to the office and then left again to do propaganda work in Yeibo. In summary, therefore, I worked on the front with Nyeb. That is all. And there was someone working permanently in the office. And when letters were delivered, someone brought the letters to us. We never worked permanently in the office. We rarely went to the office.
And let me ask you the same question. During the 6 months or so that you were district chief, was the same location used as the district office, or did you have a different place that was your office when you were chief of Tramcock District?
Answer: you didn't understand what I stated. I stated that there was no fixed office. I kept moving about all the time. There was an office at Trampeang. There was an office at Ang Roka. That office is still there near the bridge. And we used that office as a kind of warehouse from which we transported goods to distribute them to the people. During that period, it was not possible to behave as an important person under the Khmer Rouge. You had to work just like everyone else on the ground. Otherwise, you wouldn't have anything to eat. We grew rice and sweet potatoes whenever there wasn't rice. So we had at least sweet potato to eat. That's all.
And just so we're clear, so even during the time period when you were district chief, there was no single office. You still moved from office to office during the time you served as Tramcock district chief. Is that correct?
Answer: during that period, I was at Ang Roka most of the time compared to other places.
You mentioned a house of a lady that was taken and used as an office. Where was that house located?
Answer: that house was located within the premises of the market itself.
And you're talking about the Ang Roka market, is that right?
Answer: that is correct. Indeed, it was the Ang Roka market. When I was there, a brick house whose walls had already been smashed was used. The owner of that house lived to the western side of the road, and the house was taken. So that person lived to the west in another brick house.
And just to wrap up this, you said that there was always someone permanently at one office so that they could receive letters and communications. Was it the Ang Roka office that served that function, where there was always someone there for purposes of receiving communications?
Answer? There were messengers at Ang Roka who were in charge of economic matters. They were the ones who conveyed letters to other places. I mean the letters that were brought to me where I was. So they came to the office and would inform me of what was happening. That is all.
We've heard also in the testimony so far about a person or a number of people who held the title head of the district office or chief of the district office, a separate position from secretary of the district. One of the people who's been identified as having that position is someone that you've discussed, a man named Dorn. Was Dorn the chief of the Tramcock district office during the time that you were district chief?
Answer. Don was the chief of the district office.
And did Dorn work permanently at the office in Ang Roka, or did he also have different places where he worked?
Answer. He worked there most of the time, but when he had other business matters to attend to, he would move about to go and see people, so he could not move the office with him wherever he went to see people.
Could you explain for the court what the responsibilities were of Dorn as the chief of the district office and how those responsibilities differed from yours as district chief or as district secretary?
Answer. The district chiefs had no influence, they had no powers. And there were people who had to receive instructions at the level of the districts, and they had to do everything regarding what was required of them in the instructions. And when they had to convene meetings of people, or when they had to harvest the crops or obtain seeds, they had to do that as well. So their work was to provide some assistance. The district chiefs could do nothing without the assistance.
Remember who it was that was the a chief of the district office before Dorn?
Answer. I do not recall. There was Don, P,
Luna, Nấc Minh Khơi.
That happened a very long time ago, and I do not remember all those former district chiefs.
Let me ask you about one of the people you just mentioned, P. We've heard some accounts of a person named P described as someone who had a handicap or some problem in his leg and walking. Was this the same P that you just referred to, who was chief of district office at some point?
Answer. There was only one person by the name P. He was in charge of medical services. And the other, Don, was the office head.
And the person named P who you're talking about, did he have some handicap, some problem in his leg?
No, why?
Answer. Yes, that is indeed the person. He was handicapped in his legs, and the only work he could do was to go into the villages in the commune and take care of the sick.
Do you remember whether P, at any point during the regime, had any other functions or positions other than being in charge of medical services?
Answer. When I was there, he would distribute medicines and other supplies, medical supplies, but after I left, I did not know the position he was assigned, but during my term of office, he distributed medicines to children, but after I left, I was not able to find out where he was transferred.
My last question regarding P for the moment. Do you know whether he continued to work in Tramcock district through the entire regime period, that is from April 1975 through till January 1979?
Answer. He always worked there. As of the 17th of April, the date on which the entire country was liberated, up to 1976, when I left my position, Don was always there.
And one last question on the district office. You've testified that when you went to Kampong Cham, that Dorn went with you. Do you know who became the new chief of the district office at that time?
Answer. Don left after me. When I left alone, and Don was still there. Approximately 6 months later, I returned to the district to see him, and that was when Don requested to go with me, and I asked him to think carefully about it before taking the decision. Kut did not allow him to leave with me, but later on he convinced him to let him go, and he left to go and work at the cotton plantation, and that is where he died. That is all.
Mr. President, I'm looking at the clock. I understood we were going to break 10 minutes early today to hear submissions from us on a pending motion. I'm going to change subjects now, so I'm asking whether this is the appropriate time to break from the witness so that we can have 10 minutes of submissions that we requested.
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. Tek Kim, the Chamber thanks you for your testimony. You're not done with your testimony. You are requested to return tomorrow at 9 a.m. to complete your testimony. May the officials take the necessary measures to return the witness to his home. And Duty Counsel, please, you may now leave and return tomorrow to continue to assist witness Pek Chim.
The
Chamber will now hear the oral submissions of the co-prosecutors in response to the motion by the non-chair defense team filed to request the Chamber to allow additional witnesses to testify regarding Tramcock Cooperative and Prantachand's Security Center document E3 346. Deputy Prosecutor, you have the floor.
President, I will be as brief as I can. Let me just make a couple of points. We obviously have some concerns about what seems to be a practice of last-minute large requests for additional witnesses. At the same time, in our view, this needs to be decided on the merits, not on the procedure. And in that regard, there are two witnesses that they have proposed who, in our view, on the face, appear to have exculpatory information from the defense's perspective. In our view, the chamber should call those two witnesses. And the witnesses I'm referring to, and I'm mindful that I won't identify them by name here. I think only a few of them have pseudonyms. But the first one is the witness who is the first witness identified in their motion as relevant to the treatment of law and order soldiers. This is a witness whose statement Mr. Cope uses with almost every witness who's testified here. I think the evidence from this witness is suspect, but it is something the defense is relying on, and I believe that we should hear this witness. It would not take very long, in my view. This is not a witness who worked in Tramcock. He was a cadre from another part of the Southwest Zone, so I think it would be a fairly quick witness. The other one who, in our view, has exculpatory information is one of the forced marriage witnesses they've requested. There are two that they requested relating to forced marriage. The second one is a cadre, and it is a person who was directly identified by a witness who testified here as a perpetrator who was responsible for forced marriage in her commune. This witness has denied some of that, but also made some admissions. The defense wished to hear a witness who's been identified as a perpetrator and who has denied some of that. And again, I think this would be an appropriate witness for the chamber to call. For the others, I think it is more a matter of your discretion as to whether you think they would assist you in reaching the truth. I'll make some quick comments in that regard. With respect to the others, we see this argument that the evidence has been very confusing so far, so we need to hear a lot more witnesses. I think that is a bit of a disingenuous argument from the defense. I would think the defense would be rather happy if the evidence was that confusing. The reality is that the evidence has been very consistent. The cadres and the victims agree on almost all the key points. That almost everyone detained at Krang Tachan was killed and not released, that the people killed there included children, that people were tortured, suffocated, beaten to get confessions. There is a core agreement on all these facts. So I think for the defense to suggest that we need to hear a lot more witnesses because the evidence is confusing is simply wrong. Nonetheless, I think it is your decision as to whether some of these would help you. Let me just make a few observations. They've proposed a number of additional prisoners. Two of them are relatives of one of the witnesses who has testified. I don't think it is necessary to hear them, in my view. And if you were going to hear additional prisoners, I think the two female medical cadres would be better. Let me just say why that is. The defense have made much about a dispute that has arisen about whether one of these people was the victim of sexual violence. And I would just remind everyone that while this is a relevant issue, the accused are not charged here with that rape. We've seen them spend a lot of time questioning witnesses on this, but they're not charged with the rape. They are charged with the murder. So I think in deciding whether we will hear witnesses, that's something you should take into account. The medical cadres, women who they've identified, they may well, in my view, be useful to you. I think it's your discretion as to whether to call them. The additional guards, two of them, we don't even know if they're live. They're just people whose names have come up. One of them is someone who gave an interview. He's part of the same unit that I think we've already heard 2 or 3 witnesses. I'm not sure that he would add very much. There's 2 other cadres. One of them, 2 TCW 833, is someone who we've proposed as a witness. And so we certainly agree with the defense that this person should be heard. In our view, though, he's best heard in the purges section of this case. One of the principal reasons we proposed this witness was because in addition to having been a messenger in Tramcock, he later worked for Vorn Vet and was arrested at the same time as Vorn Vet. That was a principal reason we proposed this witness, though at the time we did our witness list, we were not yet authorized to disclose this information because it came from one of his subsequent interviews. So in our view, you should hear this person, but hear him as part of the purges section. The husband that they want to call on forced marriage, in my view, is not necessary. I think the testimony of that witness was clear. They've requested to call the perpetrator that she identified, which I think you should do. I do not think anything valuable will be gained by calling her husband. And lastly, they've requested additional witnesses on documents. I do not think that is a high priority. We already had hearings in the first trial on the authenticity of these documents. If you look at what these witnesses have to say, they have very little to add about that. We've heard a lot of evidence so far here that corroborates the authenticity of these documents. So I would not put those people high on the list. So those are our submissions for your honors relating to the witnesses that have been requested.
President, thank you. And Kyusampong's defense, do you wish to make any observation in regards to the oral submission by Nuon Chia's defense? If so, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am a bit flabbergasted to hear the prosecutor criticize the defense for having requested these 15 or so witnesses when they have filed tens and tens of folders with testimonies at the very last minute. I believe that the chamber can hear these 15 or so witnesses. We support this request from the Nuon Chia team, and I think that we could even accelerate the process as the chamber will make sure that the examinations, in particular from the prosecution, will be confined to the scope of the trial. For example, this morning, the prosecutors questioned the witnesses on Androkar, on the Khmer Krom, on the second population movements, which are completely outside of the scope of this trial, and we could have gained time by avoiding bringing up these topics. These are my comments. So, yes, we do support the Nuon Chia defense team's request.
President, thank you. And Nuon Chia defense, do you wish to respond to the reply or the observation by the prosecution?
No, Mr. President, we maintain our request.
President, thank you for all the observations and submissions and comments in response to the submission or request by the Defense Counsel for Nuon Chea for the Chamber to hear additional witnesses in relation to Trump Court Security Center through document E346. The Chamber will deliberate on this issue and make a ruling in due course. We will adjourn the proceedings now and resume tomorrow, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. And tomorrow the Chamber will continue to hear the testimony of witness Bicham. This is for the concerned parties and for the public. Security personnel joined Saturday to take the two accused back to the detention facility and have them return to attend the proceedings tomorrow before 9 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.